1962, the Pentagon drafts a blueprint for terror. American military leaders plan to murder American citizens. They call it Operation Northwoods. The most sinister document in U.S. government history. This isn't conspiracy theory. This is declassified fact. Proof your government planned domestic terrorism. The Cold War has America paralyzed with fear. Cuba sits 90 miles from Florida. Fidel Castro seized power in 1959. The CIA's Bay of Pigs invasion failed spectacularly. The Pentagon wants another chance. They need public support. They need Americans angry enough for war. General Lyman Lemnitzer chairs the Joint Chiefs of Staff. A decorated soldier. A calculating strategist. Lemnitzer assembles his team. They work in secret. They build a framework for false flag operations. March 13, 1962. The plan reaches Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara's desk. 15 pages. 15 pages of proposed terrorism against American citizens to justify invading Cuba. The proposals are breathtaking in their cruelty, methodical in their deception, specific in their execution. Plan 1. Stage attacks on Guantanamo Naval Base. Blame Cuba. Use it as war justification. The document specifies, blow up ammunition stores, start fires, sink ships in the harbor entrance. Americans would die. The Pentagon would blame Castro. The public would demand retaliation. Plan 2. Create incident with Cuban refugees. Sink boats full of fleeing Cubans seeking freedom. Real refugees. Real deaths. Fake Cuban attackers. The document calls it plastic surgery on public opinion. Plan 3. Hijack American civilian aircraft. Stage elaborate aerial terrorism. Blame Cuban military forces. The Pentagon details swapping identical planes. One loaded with passengers. One loaded with explosives. Passengers would board in America. Their plane would land secretly. A drone aircraft would explode instead. Evidence would be fabricated. Cuban military communications would be faked. International outrage would be manufactured. Plan 4. Terrorist bombing campaigns in American cities. Washington, D.C. Miami. Orchestrated by U.S. military. The document specifies, we could develop a communist Cuban terror campaign in the Miami area. Bomb stores. Bomb factories. Bomb ships. Plant evidence. Frame Castro. Convince America war is necessary. Plan 5. Shoot down a military charter flight. Real servicemen. Real funerals. Fake Cuban attackers. The document states, casualty lists in U.S. newspapers would cause a helpful wave of national indignation. They planned the funerals. They prepared the casualty lists. They weaponized American grief before creating it. Plan 6. Stage Cuban MiG fighter attacks on American aircraft. Use U.S. planes painted in Cuban colors. American pilots would fly Cuban-marked planes. They'd shoot down American targets. They'd blame Cuba convincingly. The deception extends to every detail. Forged aircraft parts. Planted wreckage. Manufactured evidence trails. Plan 7. Sink a U.S. Navy ship in Cuban waters. Another remember the main moment. The military studied history. They learned propaganda techniques. They perfected manufacturing consent through manufactured tragedy. Every scenario includes detailed press releases. Pre-written news stories. Coordinated media manipulation campaigns. The Joint Chiefs weren't proposing ideas. They were presenting operational plans ready for immediate execution. March 1962. Lemnitzer presents Operation Northwoods to Secretary McNamara. McNamara passes it to President Kennedy. John F. Kennedy reads 15 pages of proposed terrorism against his own citizens. Kennedy rejects it. Absolutely. The invasion won't happen. The false flags won't proceed. 1 year later, Kennedy is assassinated in Dallas. Lemnitzer is reassigned. The plan stays secret. For 35 years, Operation Northwoods remains hidden. Buried in classified archives. Unknown to Americans. November 1997. The John F. Kennedy Assassination Records Review Board declassifies Operation Northwoods. James Bamford's A Body of Secrets publishes excerpts. Mainstream media briefly covers it, then forgets. The document is now public record. Available at the National Security Archive. Completely verifiable fact. This wasn't low-level conspiracy. This was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs proposing domestic terrorism. The same minds planning America's defense were planning to attack America. To manipulate America into war. They would murder citizens. Stage funerals. Exploit grief. All while saluting the flag they were betraying. Every detail was calculated. Every death would serve propaganda. Every funeral would advance the invasion timeline. Consider what was approved by military leadership. Now consider what might have been proposed but remains classified. Operation Northwoods proves false flag operations aren't theory. They're documented Pentagon policy proposals. Your military leaders plan to kill you. To manipulate your emotions. To engineer your consent for war. One president said no. But what happens when a president says yes? When the timing aligns. Think about every crisis since 1962. Every terrorism event. Every war justification. Every convenient tragedy. Operation Northwoods teaches one lesson: your government is capable of anything when it wants war. The apparatus exists. The mindset exists. The willingness exists. Only circumstances and leadership determine activation. They declassified Northwoods because enough time passed. Because the players died. Because consequences became impossible. No one was prosecuted. No one was punished. Proposing terrorism against Americans carried zero consequences. The precedent is set. Propose attacking Americans. Get rejected. Get reassigned. Die peacefully decades later. Current military leadership learned this history. They know the boundaries. They know what's considered professionally acceptable. Operation Northwoods sits in public archives. Fully documented. Completely proven. Largely forgotten by comfortable citizens. This happened. This was real. The highest military authority proposed murdering Americans for political objectives. Remember Northwoods. Remember what your government planned. Remember that one president's rejection doesn't erase institutional capability. They told you what they were willing to do. Believe them. Stay awake. Question everything.